family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis John.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Between the Headlines, we're going to be looking at the possible vice presidential running mates for the opposition contenders for the presidency. They are Joseph Newman Boakai, Alexander Benedict Cummins, and Cummings Gongloe. Who are their possible running mates, and how would their selection impact elections 2023? With me to discuss this, I have my man from Lowell, Massachusetts, Opa Ansu Dualu. Mr. Dualu, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Opa Dualu, not easy, boy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. And Dualu is the guy who has his podcast on Facebook. And Dualu, what's that podcast again?
Mr. Dualu, the message to the legatees of Liberia, to the young people.
Legatees of Liberia. That's from Mr. Dualu. Watch that every Sunday, right?
Every Sunday at 8 p.m.
Next, we have the perfect manager, Mr. P. Morris Kroman. Mr. Morris Kroman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. It's good to be in the midst of some of our finest Liberians, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I also want to welcome the only ladies on the panel tonight. That's Glendy Genius from G Talk. Glendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Also want to welcome Dr. Abdoulaye Dukle. My system is kind of squeaky tonight. I want to welcome Dr. Dukle, who is also joining us from the nation's capital. Dr. Duke, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, and happy to be here with you. Hello, everyone.
Next, we want to welcome our Global Affairs Consultant, that's the Focus on Liberia Global Affairs Consultant, Mr. Mansfield. I really want to call it down name. Mr. Mansfield Dwopo. Mr. Dwopo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you, and good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Last but definitely not the least is Dr. Batam Kula. Dr. Kula is right here with me in Atlanta. Doc, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to a great and heated discussion on topics in Liberia.
And Dr. Kula, it's been a while now. You've not been here. I want to say welcome back. It will interest you that Dr. Kula, was among the first few groups panelists that started the Tough Talking Thursday, and he and Kuni were going head to head. Dr. Kula, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
In tonight's discussion, we're going to be looking at few things here, and that's the choice for vice president when it comes to the opposition contenders of Joseph Newman Boakai, Alexander Cummins, and Cummings Gongloe. Some of the things I want us to be looking at here will be, how significant is this whole idea of a VP candidate running mate? Is it going to impact the election? Is it going to drive people to vote for this person or that person? What's the difference it's going to make? Will a VP choice be the make it or break it moment for each of these candidates? And who are the possible candidates? Are we also expecting for this for them to kind of work something out? Let me start with Mr. Dwopo here. Mr. Dwopo, quickly, how significant is a vice presidential running mate when it comes to elections in Liberia, especially this one that we go into, 2023?
Well, I don't think it's only limited to Liberia per se, because a vice presidential candidate in any election for that matter, even in the U.S. and other places, modern democracies, is very cardinal. I mean, the vice president is viewed as the heartbeat to the presidency, is the next in line, and the vice president, the vice presidential candidate should be somebody who can be very effective on the campaign, somebody who comes from a geographical region that can help the ticket. So there are a lot of reasons why people choose a vice presidential candidate. I mean, a vice presidential candidate can be seen as the attack dog on the ticket, because if you have a ticket in the presidential race, there'll be two presidents on each political party slot. It'll be the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. So people will see that. People will see that this president who has been chosen can be the next in line. It has the credentials, the political maturity to fill in the event where the president cannot carry on the duties, through through resignation or through death. Anything can happen to somebody, and somebody can get easily filled in. So historically in Liberia, there have been, I think, about 5 vice presidents who have become presidents in their own lifetime. We learned about Smith, Coleman, Russell, Coleman, President Talbot, and Moses Blah. These were vice presidents who became president. So you see the transition. So it's also important that in the forthcoming election, the presidential candidate will be looking keenly at people who will be their running mates, gender balance, geographical consideration, all sort of consideration will be coming, and those are the things that they'll be looking forward to zeroing down on who will be the pick. So we'll look forward to that, political transaction.
Thank you. Let me go to Glendy. So in 2023, will a vice presidential pick for any of these opposition political leaders or presidential candidate be of that significant? Will it be that make or break movement for the candidate based on the presidential candidate VP choice they will make? Are they going to lose the election or win it because of that? What do you think?
I think, hello, everybody. I think it would be very significant to an extent. When you look at the previous government with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, you also want to look and see what was the role of the vice president then. What did the vice president do? How did the people of Liberia relate to the vice president? Currently, when you also look at the role of VP Taylor, how are people relating to her? Most times you hear the connotation that they've been parked, haven't done anything. But with the candidates we have in the race now, as it relates to Councillor Gongloe, VP Boakai, and to Mr. Cummings, I think it would be significant that their pick for VP is someone that's going to be able to reach across the aisle. And so they have to take their time, and they also have to find someone that's going to complement them, because I think if they have a candidate that is not going to be able to reach them across the aisle, is going to be a waste of time. So I think it's going to be significant.
Dr. Duke, historically, what has been the history of vice presidents or the vice presidential pick tilting elections in the favor of the president?
Well, I'm not sure if how far back we can go, because we didn't have
30 years is enough.
Yeah, real elections back then. But though picking up Moniba was very significant. It was like, he was from the southeast, so he picked somebody from the west. So it kind of balanced, as Mansfield was saying, kind of that regional balance into the ticket. And Ellen chose Boakai, although they're from kind of the same region, but still there was a balance, just an older man who has been on the ground and kind of balanced the ticket. But going for, looking at what could happen in next year, I think because our elections are so ethnic oriented once you leave Monrovia, once you leave Montserrat County. Identity politics takes over in many places. So because of that, the choice of the candidate, the running mate will be very important depending where you choose him or her because of the ethnicity aspect of the politics in the country.
Thank you. Dr. Kula.
Well, historically, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Just pick up from the significance and what is the history?
All right. Historically, from what I understand, being the son of the former United Methodist Church bishop who was very, very active during the Doe administration, I understand that our vice presidents have been more or less messengers, all right? For lack of a better word, messenger boys. And they've been more tamed, more timid, although they've been used by the president for regional balance and other things in terms of getting votes and what have you. But for the most part, in the past, we had a one-party state, which that wasn't really significant. So it had to be more or less what the party bosses wanted. But as we came into democracy with Doe, of course, Doe picked Maniba, who used to be a ambassador and was from Lofa for a very strategic reason. I believe Lofa had a lot of people in the military at the time, Doe being a military man and all of that. Then we come to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She picked again Joe Boakai from Lofa. Again, I guess like the professor said, because of the fact that he was well known. He was also known as Ambassador Boakai. He came from Lofa, a significant area of our country. Came to Wea, he picked Taylor because she's from both Bong and Lofa. Again, Bong makes up a significant part of our population. They're a significant strategic region. They're central and all of that. And she wanted to test what people had said about Boakai for the longest time, that Boakai was a parked car. But the reality was that in Liberia, the vice president never asserts himself or herself. She tested that, and quickly, George Weah and his CDC put her in her place by alienating her, by not giving her office monies, not gassing her vehicles, making her come home from a trip that she took. They pretty much treated the lady really, really bad until 1 year before the elections. Then they started to bring her back in. So again, they can win that election. But for the most part, the vice president has been sort of like a messenger boy. Now it's becoming, let's get somebody on the ticket that can bring more votes and pretty much strengthen our ticket. That's how it's come along, in my view.
Thank you. Mr. Dualu, let's look at 2017 and see what we learned. From 2017, both Mr. Cummins and Mr. Boakai had the vice presidential pick. What do you think was the impact, and what lesson can they learn from that?
The first thing I want to say, Dr. Dukley, I'm a big fan of yours. It's a privilege to be on here with you tonight. I read everything you write. Thank you for what you do. But I want to say this. It's easy and for us to always resort back to what we have in the country. People will pick the political leaders or vice presidential candidate based on the population of that location. It is good. I'm not naive to that condition. But my main thing is we should start gearing our picks towards the ideology of that political organization. Our people have to evolve somehow. It seems we are still stuck in this vote race location picking section where we don't get the best and brightest, the governors. That's what it's been. But I'll speak to the question you just asked. In terms of 2017, the picks that were made by Honorable Boakai, I don't think it was very smart. It is Cummins as well. Honorable Boakai's pick for that election was, what's his name? Nukwe. I believe it was Representative Nukwe. He had a lot of baggage coming with him. He came from Margibi County. I think it was a poor pick. Now, you guys, everybody mentioned this, and I understand this, and I understand why we still do this. We have to pick people that's going to increase our vote. But here's the thing. Are we just going to be increasing this vote when we know this vote increase is not going to move the country forward? I mean, these are questions we have to be asking. If we're going to come here and try to analyze these things, we have to let our people know that there's a whole lot more involved to just vice presidential pick. This person has to be literally prepared to take up the helm of power when it comes to that. So the selection is just can just be predicated upon whether the person from a rich county. That means
but Dualo, the pick is about winning, right?
I understand that.
So who can make them win? I think that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying now. I understand the winning factor, but what I'm saying is we have to evolve where we win based on ideology, not on vote rate near my county or vote rate low file Buchanan. That means nobody from River G will ever become vice president in the country if we have the best possible president that could transform the country. And I'll just give it back to you.
Mr. Kruman, same question, the importance of this whole vice president thing, and what can we learn from Cummings and Boakai 2017?
Thank you again, Dennis, for the opportunity, and it's really a pleasure to be on the show with Dr. Dukley. I want to just first of all, start from where Dualo left off. In politics is a number game, right? So, assuming the ideology of a political institution, which we don't have in Liberia, exists, then it will be easier to pick, someone within the institution that have similar ideas and try to move the country forward. But for you to govern, the first thing is to win an election, and that process of winning include amassing votes. And so you have to take someone who has sufficient political capital, who has very little baggage, someone who is ready to lead on day one. If something happens, like Memphis said, and also take into consideration the geography and the balancing, ethnic, religious, whatever those qualities or profiles are that fit within the context of the country. As far as the 2017 election, I want to also agree with Dualo that it was a terrible decision by our vice president to go with Nukwe. There were more quality candidates that could have supported Ambassador Boakai to get him over the hump. Nukwe has sufficient baggage that he couldn't even win his county. If you look at the data that came out of the elections, Nukwe did not win in Margibi County. It says a lot about the person that he picked. Also, Cummings. I won't blame Cummings a lot because he was pretty new to the field. And when you come in newly, you get overwhelmed by so much information, so much that you can take in a relatively short period. As a result, going with his candidate that he chose for running mate, that I'll give him a pass on that. This one, 2023, we'll see what decision they make.
Dr. Kula, is it too soon to pick the vice president now? And what's your comments on the 2017 experience with Cummings and Boakai?
2017 with Cummings and Boakai, they, I believe, made some mistakes in who they picked. Because to be honest with you, I don't see that their picks did anything for the ticket at all. Now, coming to the elections of 2023, I think it's very important, and I've seen some reports that Boakai will be coming out with his pick. I think it's very significant that he picks someone as soon as possible so that they can test the waters and see and build the momentum for the elections. Basically, see what the people feel about his pick, because for the longest time, a lot of our people were saying to the Boakai Cummings group when they were CPP that we want both of you on the ticket. Now that has been dashed. If anybody can change that or bring somebody significant that will tilt the ticket or tilt the elections in a way that everybody will now be looking to change what we have in our country right now, which is a very incompetent government.
I agree.
Dr. Duke?
Yeah.
What do you make of the 2017 pick? And Mr. Boakai in his interview said he did that 3 months prior to election. That was too late. So I think that's the first thing he wants to correct. Do you see, if you agree that it was a bad pick, do you see Mr. Boakai trying to do anything differently this time around?
Well, I think the fact that he says that he will pick somebody soon means that he has been thinking about it. But I think vice presidential, the most important thing about it is to get along with the person, to trust that person, and having confidence in that person's capacity to run the country if you're not there. But the rest, we can hope. I think, Dwalo, you're right. I think we shouldn't be saying, well, why would take somebody from Nimba, even if the guy or the person is a dumb person, just because he can bring votes? That's the ideal situation. But the reality is people in Nimba will follow without ethnic votes at some degree. Basa will be the same thing. So, that's a reality. This is like the merchandising part of the politics. What works and what doesn't work. I don't know, Tony. I don't think Boakai. I think he would pick somebody who he has thought about it seriously. I think he's talked about it seriously, and I think he would pick somebody who probably will bring that balance to him. Both in terms of age, experience, and all of that. Our politics, unfortunately, is not based on ideology. It's based on everybody development. So there's nothing else. So then it comes down to who got more charisma, who's better known, who's a better salesman. But I don't know, the vice president pick really, I don't think, to me, it's not really that important at this stage. You want to work as a candidate, get people to know you, to trust you going forward. And then you pick somebody at the last minute. I think, there's nothing wrong with picking somebody last minute.
What is considered last minute?
Last minute would be like 3 months into the campaign.
I think that's true.
When you have made your case, and then you go and then pick somebody and say, well, it depends on what you're selling. If you're selling yourself really as a president, why not?
Glendy, you have a different opinion?
So I think it's going to be too late to wait for 3 months. I think they need to, whoever they're thinking about now, I think they need to pick that person. I think whichever, whether it's Cummings or Boakai or Councillor Gongloe, needs to pick someone that will complement them. So they're looking at their negatives and their positives and see how this person is going to be able to help me reach across the aisle. You can't, and I hope that they don't make the same mistake they made back then to just up and pick people without doing some background and seeing how they're going to be able to win the numbers. Because whether you're the most popular or not, if you don't have the numbers, you're not going to win. George Weah is going to win you. So you have to be sure that whoever you're picking is going to be that person that's going to help you reach across the aisle. And I think now is a better time. That, say, for example, when you look at Kamala Harris and you look at Joe Biden picked someone where some people was like, what? That woman was the most antagonistic in her debate, but he picked her. And how he was able to win her over to him should speak volume to the candidates we have now, to look around the populace of Liberia and see who is going to be able to sell them. Because we have to be able to see that the ticket is united and it's a ticket that's going to be able to reach across the aisle. So I think now is the time. I don't think they need to wait. I think the sooner they do it, the better, because they'll be able to sell them.
I agree.
Let's see if we can enter the minds of these candidates and see where they are looking. So I want to pick out 3 things that they are hinting, and see Mr. Drupu, whether this give us any clue as to who they're going to pick. In his recent interview, Mr. Boakai said, my vice president should be someone who shares my vision about Liberia. My vice president should believe in honest service to the country like I have always believed. Is that, first of all, so does that give you a clue as who's going to pick? And what does that say about, is that reinforcing his 2017, or is a turn away from that? His 2017 pick.
Well, maybe he's trying to, radically depart from that, from that horrible pick that I think everybody here has alluded to. But Dick Cheney was considered the most consequential vice president in U.S. Modern political history, because when George Bush asked him to go look for a vice president, Dick Cheney went throughout the length and breadth of the United States, came back to George Bush and told him that I couldn't find anybody else. And I think I am the most qualified person to take this job. That was a seminal moment in American history. So the vice presidential pick is very consequential. I know because our political socialization in our country, we're not up to the par. Like, I think Dualu tried to allude to, talking about ideology and all that stuff. It's not part of our political consciousness in Liberia. And Doug alluded to that. The tribal dynamics, we can't rule that out. The regional interplay, all that. Because most of the time, the vice presidential pick are very less known people. Our history is that we focus on these big names, the Cummins of the world, the Gongloes, the Boakais, the Wea. But when they pick somebody, it's like, wow, who's this person? What has this person done? So they have to be very careful. The only person who has a vice presidential pick right now is the president. So he enjoys that, that relationship right now, although it has, had its own setback couple of months off, years ago. Now they're coming together, they're gelling together, putting a united front, saying that we are ready for a second term. So a vice presidential pick can help or hinder a ticket. My brother was a vice presidential candidate, full disclosure for Mr. Ure, So the first time I heard my own brother's name, I'm like, Alex, are you the Alexander Dopu they're talking about? My brother from the same mom and same dad? He said, it is me, my brother. I'm like, wow. So it really dawned on me that, my brother was on a presidential ticket. It was a, very proud moment though, but I just understood the dynamics and I knew that,
Were you surprised?
I was totally surprised, really,
Why?
because he's not a political type. He's not, I was the person who was seen in that, political thing, from college and all that. But even friends called me, and they said, Mainstream, would I prefer you to your brother? I said, no, I wasn't making a decision. But we come back to the question of, the statement that Ambassador Boakai made, using his own measurement. Politics is not moral. You won't bring your morality to the game. It's not, what is or what ought to be. It is what is. It's purely, realism, that you have to understand the dynamics that are played. So if you want to use your own measurement, your own probity to, pick somebody, you might not be getting somebody from an area that will make you be president. You might get somebody who shares your own, morality per se, but that person might not, really bring in like Brother Kruman said, it's all about the numbers. He picked Nunkwe. I think he regretted that. Nunkwe, he wasn't popular, number one, in Magibi. He didn't have the people of Magibi behind him. And after when that campaign failed, Nunkwe took a job to be the head of the Civil Aviation Department on George Weah. So that should tell you a lot, of these kind of, history picks that people, they don't regret.
Right. And Morris, that is normally how these presidential, vice presidential candidates are, right? When Weah first ran, he ran with Rudolph Johnson. The next year, I don't know if you even remember him. When the late Bromsky ran with Amelia Ward. The next, nowhere around. Cummins ran with Jeremiah Slunter. Where is Slunter today with Cummins? And so, people do these people even know these people that they are picking, or is it because because of this issue of that issue? So,
Dennis, if you had just put the question out and say, who ran with Weah in 2005, I'll be scratching my head right now trying to figure out who that person was. Because it's been a while. 2011, I know Weah was on the vice presidential ticket. But the point of the matter here is that, but think about this though, Dennis. I'm sure when President Tubman chose Turbot to be his vice president, he thought about the morality part, but also the influence that Turbot had at that time. So we can also go back to President Doe. I know, Doug just talked about it. Moneybar was from Lofa. He was, an educated man. Though admire educated people. Lofa Kante was significantly, identified with the military. Though was also from the military, so he needed some sort of representation. We can go to Madam Joa Howard Taylor, who's our current vice president. I'm sure we didn't choose her just by mistake. She, had the
It's a
tip
one
of the
factor.
mustache. We also have significant vote by itself just because she's Mistress Taylor, and then her origin of both Bond County and Lofa County. So I mean, choosing a vice president is extremely important. The VP statement is difficult to measure, so I would take it as a political statement. You
Yes.
can you can say someone who is sincere or honest. How do you measure sincerity or honesty? I come to you and say, well, I worked for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf for 6 years. I was working at the Ministry of Finance. I'm an honest man because there's no, all the audit, my name is not mentioning any of them. So clearly I'm an honest person. Well, you don't know if that person is honest till they get power. Once power comes in the mix, then people start saying, oh, wow, I didn't know this guy was like this. I mean, look at some of the things that we're hearing about, some of the officials of Joshua. Some of them we work with directly, and we really never thought about their character as such until they got the power that they got. You see what I'm saying? So it's a political statement, which is fair. I mean, in the kind of space that we're in, Joseph Boakai is known in Liberia for being a statesman and being someone who has had long, protracted public office record with no blemishes. I mean, depending on who you ask, but so when you say somebody who is honest or somebody who's sincere, people can connect to it because they know he has a long, public service record and stuff like that.
So based on that statement, in which direction do you believe Joe Boakai is looking?
I mean, people are assuming that it's going to be a Yomli Kanga Lawrence. People, making a lot of assumptions. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I can't point to a particular region that he's looking, but Grand Bassa County and Lofa County, the combination, it's not a bad ticket. The only question I'll be asking is Yomli Kanga ready to lead the day after election? The morning after election, if something happens tomorrow, is Yomli Kanga prepared to be the president of Liberia? Is he ready to make the critical decision, economics and security, and all these different things? Is she ready to do that? I can't say, but it's within the purview of Honorable JMB.
Mr. Dualo, based on that statement, who you think are on the VP's shortlist?
Well, for me, I have a dream. Hopefully, he picks Gongloe. That would be a glory for me personally. But I would say this. I did say something, and a lot of people jump on it. And I want to be very clear here with this. I'm not naive to the conditions in Liberia. I know that we vote on very primal levels. I understand that. But my vision for the country is hopefully someday we can vote on real issues that transform the society. I understand we vote on these tribes and political ideology and, I just let it ball basis is hurting us. That's the point I was trying to make. But I'm not naive. I understand we vote on these primal levels. And the primal levels are hurting us very heavily. For me, I don't want to pick Yumbley. And first of all, it's illegal for Honorable Boakai to pick anybody from Lofa County. It's against the Constitution, so we're not even going to go that route. But I'm hoping for the reason why I want Gongloe, and I love what Honorable Boakai did say. He said, listen, I want somebody whose vision for the country aligns with my vision for the country. And I think him and Gongloe, they've been saying the same thing when it comes to the issue of corruption, how to build institutions in the country, how we can improve the condition in that country by setting up the proper institutions to guide the governance space. And I think that's what we all want for the country. At the end of the day, these selections have to be based on the person's capability to deliver to the country. That's what I'm hoping for. And I hope Honorable Boakai can see that. Now, for me, Yomli Kanga Lawrence, I think she should remain in the Senate for now. I think she would serve Liberia best while she stays in the Senate. I hope he can pick Gongloe, or he can pick a young person, like Dr. Nije. I mean, go out, go to Liban Bowie, find somebody else if he must pick a woman. But I'm not a big advocate for having a woman become a vice president. No, if you got a man that can deliver better, pick a man. And let's move forward. Let the country go in the right direction. I'll give it back to you, John.
Thank you. Let me go to Glendy. Glendy, we are hearing some names when it comes to VP Boakai, right? We've heard Yombli Kanga Lawrence, Prince Moe, Benina Ure. Are you hearing other names? And where you think the VP is looking, especially when we look at his statement there? Do you think? He also said that that's his personal choice. Nobody's going to push him to pick this person or that person.
I think the statement from VP Boakai is just a strategy. I think he got a lot of criticism for the flight with Benina Ure, and so maybe there was a portion of his base that was upset, and so he comes and makes this general statement so that he brings his people back together. Because of course there have been talk about him picking Yombli and there have been talk about him picking Ure. So I think the statement I'm not going to read anything much into it. I would hope that he will make the choice, but I would hope that he will pick somebody that gives him chemistry. Of course, I'm a woman. If he has a woman pick, that's even better. If he doesn't, that's fine. But someone who's going to have chemistry with him and someone who's going to be able to bring numbers for him is what he needs to look at and not look at anything else. Now, how he does it and how he doesn't do it, that's up to him. But he has to be sure that whoever he brings or whoever he picks is able to meet up with the negatives that he has and turn those negatives into positive. That statement is just a political strategy.
Dr. Do look at these people that we are hearing are on the short list, not from VP Boakai, but from what people have been throwing around. And sometimes these things are true, as people throw trial balloons all the time. So if we take Yombli, if we take Prince, the senator, or Benina Ure, who you think will serve Mr. Boakai better, or none of them? What do you think? Who's bringing something to the ticket?
This is a tricky question, right? It's a tricky question, right? You want me to tell you what I would choose between Yombli Kanga and Prince Moy and Benina Ure?
Or none of the above?
Why would he have to choose among these people?
We heard their names, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody float their names. If people go into the papers, drop their names at radio stations and all of that, they run their own campaign. So, but until we hear from Boakai, it's kind of difficult to be even presumptuous to say, okay, I think this is where he's going, because his statement, as Madam said, is politically vague. Anybody can say, yes, I served the country honestly. My service to the country was totally honest, and I never stole. My name was never part of any audit, and like Maurice added. So that statement was vague enough to put anybody under that tent. So I think until he picks somebody, I mean, each one of them has something to give. Normally, because, if we think ethnic politics, you should bring some part of the Bassa vote up to the Riverses, if that works, in some part of Monrovia. Pretty more, that's Bond County. That's going to be a big fight between him and the VP people. Ure, what Ure brings? Well, Ure run for president last time. He got 1.what%, and I'm not sure what he brings to the ticket, except if he has financial support to give to him. But I'm not really sure what he will bring in terms of popularity, because he run for president for 5 years.
And then he brings the jet, right?
Huh?
So he brings money and then and the jet.
Yeah, the jet. Yeah, exactly. So,
private jet.
Yeah, he ran for president after he had been campaigning long before anyone for 2017, I would say, and he got what? Yeah. So, what is his impact? I mean, you don't choose a vice president just because he's loyal to you. He has to serve something else.
Dr. Kula, let's look at on this short list. Let me be direct. Which of these? None of these? Who brings the best to the VP ticket?
Well, Dennis, before I even get to names, I want to discuss what the candidates should be doing right now. What Omer Boakai and others who are running for the presidency should be doing if we seriously think about our country and where we want to move it, and then deciding on who should be that vice presidential candidate that should go in the race with us. I think we should start thinking about where our country is right now and where we need to move it. Where the CDC and we have brought our country, where they've destroyed integrity institutions, where we went out of the country for 48 days when in fact you're not allowed to go out of the country for more than 7 days as a president, where it seems like everything has gone from, I would say, a little bit of competence during Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to incompetence, underachievement, mediocrity, a lot of playing football every day, playing basketball every day. Holly goes to the office. Everything seems to be lackadaisical in this particular administration. And a lot of the people in positions of power are young kids that have no experience, no real education, no real integrity, none of that would say we're serious about building a nation. So I think what the old man should be thinking about beyond bringing somebody that is integrous and popular and all of that, bringing somebody that gels with him, but also bringing somebody that would tell the country and with his team that will tell the country we're about business, we're about to move this country forward. We're no longer going to play games and just take this country for a joke and have people marching to the airport to meet the president in droves, having holidays every so often, shutting the whole country down for little or nothing, having people in the political parties that don't obey the code of conduct or any of that. We need serious business. And in that regard, I would say the president also needs to look at the fact that, or the presidential candidate needs to look at the fact that WEA has a female candidate as VP. Now, does he need to bring a female like Yombly? And if he does bring a female like Yombly, does she have all of the qualifications to be president if something were to happen to him? Because he has to consider his health. Yes, he has a pacemaker. There's no doubt that he's not as healthy as we would want him to be. All of those things will have to be factored in if we're really serious about our country and we're really serious about moving our country forward. But if it's just a matter of let's find somebody that we can make arrangements with because they've been with us, let's bring Ure, let's bring this president because we're cutting deals here and there, then I don't think we're really thinking seriously about nation building in Liberia.
Mr. Drupu, if you were suggesting someone to the VP, who would that be and why?
Maybe I'll suggest myself, like Dick Cheney.
I know, right?
But on a very serious note, I don't know what the VP was trying to achieve in that his statement. Like somebody said, it's kind of vague. It's kind of politically, trying to maybe after the jet gate. Going to Nigeria.
That was not a jet gate. That was no scandal.
Already has a little gate now, So, he'll maybe try to, woo back his supporters who, were seriously, in stance. They were, they were so angry about, why the vice president, took such a trip with, Ure, of all person, because most of his supporters, don't really like, Ure, because I think he has a very unsavory, character. It kind of tints the vice president's own, this character that he portrays out there that people respect him for. He comes across as, very honorable and all that. So, socializing with such a person with a checkered past, I think it rubs people negatively. So, like somebody, some political scientists, I think it was Easton, who said, politics is about the authoritative allocation of values. How you allocate your good value to another person's quote unquote bad value and all that. All that is part of political gamesmanship that you have to understand as a politician. But sometimes, strange bedfellows coming together, just for the whole purpose of, political power. It's all about that. It's not a game that is it will be measured in terms of who has the best value, the best morals, and all that. Like Kurman said, in the end justifies the means. You want to win the election. You want to bring somebody who will balance your ticket, who will give you the vote, who will bring that maybe regional or ethnic or geographic balance to the ticket. Because sometimes when presidential candidates are named, it either kind of rallies the base or it alienates the base.
Right.
Two options you're looking at.
So on this list, right? Which of them?
On that list, I'm not privy to the vice president's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not qualified to suggest anybody on this list.
Yeah, but on this list, who you think alienate or rallies the base?
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there because it could be kind of, very subjective. And, I could take some flack for that. So I'm not going to go there. The vice president has his advisors who will come and look at this list. There might be other people who he's considering.
You're a political guy, right? If you were advising the president, what would you say about this short list?
Well, I'm not advising it right now because it should be a paid position. It should be if I paid to do that, then I will, have the liberty to speak on it. But I don't think I should be in a position to tell him, who's who, and all that. So maybe I'll leave the other members of the panel, to weigh in on that.
Dennis, Can I
Go ahead, Brandy. Hold on.
I just like to make one point. I because I'm in a healthcare field, I always kind of quench when people always refer to someone's medical condition. Somebody with a pacemaker could probably be the most healthier person compared to you and I. And I want to also say Dick Cheney, what Ambassador Boakai has is way less than what Dick Cheney had, and he survived it.
True.
So I don't want to be a healthcare worker in this seat here tonight and make it seem like because he has a pacemaker, he may not be able to become president. I really don't want to do that because there are people who live with it for many years.
No, I didn't misspeak. I didn't misspeak.
That's not what you said.
No. Let me make my point. I did not say. Don't get me wrong. I did not say because he has a pacemaker that he's not going. What we in Liberia don't do, we don't take into consideration situations that may happen. I'm just saying he needs to also consider those things. Consider the health issue. That if anything were to happen, that you have somebody that can take over. I'm not saying anything's going to happen, and I'm not saying it's going to prevent him from being president or any of that stuff. And I think people get afraid to talk about those issues about either age, about health, or any of that stuff because they think it's going to take away from the candidate. I'm not saying that he's not going to live long. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying let's think seriously about our nation and nation building in all aspects of it. Everything.
Dr. Kula, let me push you on that a little bit. This is a medical condition. Is that public? How do you know?
It is public. It is public. First of all, George Weah. It is public. Well, let me finish. It is public. First of all, George Weah, being the president of Liberia, after paying for this OMED to have the procedure, he went out and said it, which was wrong. That was wrong. That was a low blow. But then the OMED came out and later on said, yes, indeed, I did have a pacemaker put in. But I think that was a low blow on their part in the CDC for putting his health information out there. If there was America, it would have been something else. They would have been in trouble for that with all the laws that we have here.
Dennis, can I make one quick point before we make progress?
Sure, because we are going to comments now. Go ahead. Make your point.
I mean, I wanted to speak to something that Batum said that I thought we need to talk about a little bit, because the way Liberia political system work, it's difficult to have an ideological political argument that will amass votes. I mean, all of us agree that the country usually votes on ethnic lines, on regional lines, and stuff like that. I see where you're going. Your heart is in the right place. In any modern democracy, there is a competition of ideas where people make a debate saying, "Well, look at your president left the country for 48 days. He spent X amount of dollars, public money on whatever he went for, and it affects the future of the country and the young people in the country. And so we should make a decision in 2023 that such things don't happen in the future." Unfortunately, it is the young people that will vote for this guy, believe it or not, because the country don't vote on ideas. I'm sorry to say, but people will go to the polls and they will say, "Why
Which
I
which
don't
which, which countries does? Which country does vote on
in many
ideas?
democracies people vote on ideas." People
Like here?
rejected the Republicans recently because of their idea and their extreme views about the way the country was going. People rejected them in this recent midterm. The data shows that. I mean,
Anyway,
we can go on and talk about other countries,
right.
but
We can talk about many things.
the
Mr.
point I'm
Duano, let me come to you and let's look at Mr. Cummings' pick. Mr. Cummings has not, unlike VP that we've been seeing some trial balloons up there. For Mr. Cummings, we have not seen any spaghetti on the wall concerning his vice presidential pick. The only thing, when I spoke to him or in an interview, this is what he said about the personality. He said the chemistry has to work. We have to trust each other. I'm an introvert and I will be looking for an extrovert, someone with a different personality. He said if he had 5 qualities that he was looking for, he will look at someone who has more. So if he's shortlisting 5 persons, someone with 4 or all 5 qualities, that's the one he's going to pick. He also said when I asked him, well, you don't have the public service experience, so will you be looking for somebody like that? He said, what has the public service experience done for us anyway? Based on that, Mr. Dualo, where you think Mr. Cummings is looking for his vice presidential pick?
Well, I'm gonna say this, Mr. Cummings. How do I say this? Look, before I even say that, I want to say something Mr. Krumah said, and I want to just elaborate a little bit more. It is true we don't vote on ideology, but I want to say this: politicians should be inspiring our people into thinking right, not just continuing to pander to this primal level that we believe in, this ignorance of our population. It is okay. I understand the tribal leaning of our country where we'll vote for this person, but we have to find a way to change that. But I'll go back to Mr. Cummings. Look, Mr. Cummings, ANC and ANC people will hit me for this. It's not getting the traction that he should be getting kind of resources that he has employed in Liberia so far. I'm not faulting the man for it. Now, in many occasions that I believe, arguably, if you look at the presentation or what Mr. Cummings has achieved, he's arguably the best person positioned to cover the country and get it into a proper place where we need to. But is it possible for him to win now? And Cummings could leverage this through through the CPP or through Mr. Boakai to get him to that position. But on the current circumstance, I don't think Mr. Cummings is in the position to get the kind of number that he needs to win, even to make it to the second round. People don't want to hear the realism. I don't know who mentioned this. Every time we speak truth about the Kula, if we say something that is extremely obvious or that is truthful, people coil. They say, "Oh, you can't talk it." And before I give it back to you guys, I'm going to say this. Look, I used to be an insurance broker. I'm here in the north. And I work with Liberian homes and try to sell them life insurance.
Yeah.
And when you tell them about life insurance, they say, "Oh, why you want me to die?" They give them a big problem. So we refuse to face the reality. And then when Ome Musa died, everybody said, "Oh, we're collecting 50-50." This is what's killing the society. But I believe it doesn't matter who he picks. To some extent, it might give him an edge if it's somebody really popular. But he needs to understand he has to leverage his position to do another way to get to the presidency. That's what I feel. Give it back to you.
Dr. Duke, let's look at Mr. Cummings and his potential vice presidential pick.
Well, I think this is probably the case where you say, okay, as Dualo just said, maybe he's not getting traction. Maybe he will need somebody to pull him up. Somebody who has, a better knowledge of the terrain, someone who can probably maneuver the political theater more than he can. So probably for him, it's probably time, or maybe he should have done that yesterday. It's probably time for him to pick someone to take the light from him a little bit and shine it on somebody else who could probably prop him up a little bit. But it comes down to again who he wants, what he wants, and who he feels comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what he said, right? He talked about the chemistry. He talked about
chemistry is.
Yeah,
but I think. Well, as we're talking about vice presidents, and at some point everybody was talking about that CPP ticket, Boakai, Cummings.
Yep.
So now, do you think that there's any possible chemistry between these two to ever work together again? So it has to be chemistry. I mean, that's the number one thing, that you like the person, or even don't like the person, but you respect that person to work with you. And also, you got to be somebody who will not outshine you, because you don't want the vice president to be seen more than you. Say, oh, we voted for that man. Oh, I thought he was the other one. So you don't want somebody to overshadow you. So, it's a matter of balance, but, you have to be very careful doing what you do. But for Cummings, maybe, I think, without going to the detail, what kind of person he needs, maybe he needs somebody now who could give some light to his campaign from a different direction.
Glennie, will you agree with that? That Mr. Cummins probably needs somebody to add more, like what we saw with the pick of Louis Brown as the head of Team Cummins, and Louis Brown he brought fire, right? And so we saw that in the campaign, and he's been speaking, he's been talking, he's been very forceful. Is that someone like that Mr. Cummins needs for his vice president?
So let me just say first, because I'm not an ANC person, I just want to find out from you, is that what you're saying, was it public knowledge that Louis Brown was picked as the head
of his the Team Cummins?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. But I would tend to disagree with the chemistry. Well, Mr. Cummings said chemistry, which is important. I think a candidate that he picks that's going to help him get over some of the hurdles he's in, I think that would be good, because we're all not naive to the fact that not everyone is gravitating towards Mr. Cummings. So I think it's important that his candidate and his pick will be able to balance him out a little bit. But I also want, when you talk about chemistry, I want us to look at Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. These people fought on stage. So where did the chemistry come from there?
Right.
Where did it come from? They literally had an argument, and in that debate, I think Joe Biden was smart to pick her, because after their debate, a lot of people gravitated towards Kamala and they were reminded of who Joe Biden was, and so they became angry. So I don't think chemistry is gonna do it. I think someone that's gonna, like he said, he's an introvert, definitely an extrovert, will do it, but he needs someone who's not gonna come in there as an extrovert and overshadow him. He needs someone, wherever limitations that people are saying that he has, who's gonna come there to be able to get him over whatever hurdles he has.
And what do you think the hurdles are that someone need to get him over?
Well, just from the discussion here, everybody's saying that some of us have some of the.
What do you say?
You put that on the hot seat.
I think.
But John, I want to let you.
Hold on, let Glennie finish, then you can come in.
I tend not to want to say that, because I am one person who always I am a little tick off when people say Cummings should not vote because he's not Liberian enough. I think all Liberians, no matter where you are, where you've lived, if you think you have the capacity and the capability to run for an elected office in Liberia, then go for it. So I don't think I'll be the right person to answer that question, because
let me answer that, Dennis.
Yeah, I wouldn't be the right person to answer that question, really, because I think anybody who is of age and who meets the criteria to run for presidency should be allowed to run.
All right, let's Dualo come in. He wanted to come in, and then Dr. Kula.
No, G Talk did say something, and I want us not to skip this. I mean, the political sophistication or maturity here in the U.S. is far bigger and better than what we have in Liberia. So when you talk about the collaboration with I mean, Boakai is not going to let it go easily, or Cummings not going to let it go easy, or there are people not going to allow them to let it go. Unlike Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, the people don't understand we have a goal to a team. Focus is attaining that goal. Can we get to that level in Liberia? That's the question. I think that's the hiccup right now between the CPP collaboration. Okay,
Dr. Kula, you said you wanted to list the hurdles.
Yeah, I mean,
and those hurdles, and and how does a presidential pick puts him over those hurdles?
well, let me deal with the hurdles first, then
All
we'll
right.
the other part. Look, the reality is this: Cummings can operate in corporate America. He speaks the language. He talks the talk. He walks the walk. In Liberia, Cummings looks more like he's staged. Okay. He does not speak the language of the people. Even Liberian parables and idioms and stuff like that, it doesn't come naturally with him. He goes to Liberia. He's quoting a book. I think Managers Eat Last or something like that. I haven't read the book, but there's a book in management all people in corporate America have read. Something about the chief eat last or big man eat last or whatever. In Liberia, when people talk about eating is stealing. Eating is corruption. It's eating money. You know what I'm saying? So you can't go use that kind of language in a Liberian political setting and say, "Oh, the big man eat last." Eat what? We'll eat the money. We'll chop the money. So yeah, those are the simple things that if you are Liberian through and through, you know those things. Like for example, I can go to Alabama because went to college in Alabama. I can talk the way the people in Alabama talk, but at the same time, if I in a corporate setting, I can speak that corporate language. Cummings has not been able to translate from corporate America, where he operates well and he has all the mannerisms of the Americans and all of their language and all of that, and then go to Liberia and do the same thing. We as Liberians should be able to do that. Why do you think Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was able to win Montserrado County in the 80s? Why do you think Ellen Johnson Sirleaf will come years later and win the presidency? Because Ellen wasn't only a World Bank economist, through and through. She knew the language.
Who you think can put Mr. Cummings over those hurdles? Or at least make
the guy that you keep calling, what's his name? Louis Brown. Louis Brown can talk the talk, but he's got too many butts. That's the problem. A lot of the people that he's brought to show up his campaign have too many butts. And I think timing is everything. When Cummings and Omer Boakai were together, PP, if they had listened to the Liberian people and just went together as a team, we'll be talking a different story right now. George Weah and his people will be scared to death at this point. But right now they're not scared because they know the opposition is in disarray. You're going to divide the opposition vote 5 different ways, and then George Weah and MPP together as a group with Tyler's party. I mean, how does that work?
So are we saying it's late? It's late for Boakai Cummings?
I'm not saying it's late. If y'all can work it out, y'all the women, I'm counting on people like you. I'm counting on all the women. Y'all get together. Lenny, I'm begging you on this show. Lead the women. Talk to my wife and others. Y'all get together and y'all beg those 2 men. Talk to Teresa Cummings, Mrs. Cummings. Y'all beg them to bring those 2 men together. That's the only way I see we can rescue Liberia. This should be
and we'll talk about
operation for Liberia. 6 more years of CDC, y'all will not recognize our country again.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr.
Thank you, Dr. Kula. Thank you so much.
Mr. Duopo, you are the political scientist here, so don't tell me again you can't predict or you can't make any suggestions. Let's look at Mr. Cummings' vice presidential picks. Based on everything that you have heard, based on who Mr. Cummings is looking at, which direction you think he's looking and how is that going to help him? You're muted, sir.
I think
okay, go ahead.
In the last election, I think he chose Ambassador Salonte.
Yeah.
And if you look at Cummings, you look at Salonte, they have the same, they're both introverts.
Yes.
Salonte, he's not the fiery type. He's not the politically savvy guy. He's very measured, circumspect in everything that he does, just like Cummings. So maybe he's not, looking at a Salonte of 2017 now. maybe you talk about Louis Brown, somebody who has been a student political activist, somebody who has worked in government. So Cummings, he's the kind of guy who kind of looks down on people who have government experience. Maybe because he comes from a corporate world, he understands.
Let me throw something in there because we heard these names before, even though not from Cummins. Someone, I think from the beginning, Musa Bility, they were trying to arrange a pact, right? Even though that, I think they both backed away. And then I've heard the name Edith Gongloe as well.
Yeah, I mean, I won't doubt anybody on that list because a lot of interplay going on, a lot of political machinations, and the whole subterfuge game and all that stuff. But while I'm trying to drive out, Cummings is not as lucky as somebody like Gerald Ford, who became president of the United States without being elected vice president. Not only was he elected president, so it was just a default. It was just an accident in history that happened to Gerald Ford. He was just sitting back. Vice President Agnew resigned his job. Then when he became vice president, Nixon had to resign. So he became president by default.
Like good Lord Jonathan of Nigeria.
Yeah. So Cummings can benefit from that kind of accident in history in Liberia right now. So what he needs to do is, since he has this corporate mindset, Liberia is not, somebody was just saying, we're not sophisticated. Our political socialization has not reached the point where people would decipher between, ideology, political thought, and all that. Right now, the game is all about, the maneuvering that go on, the backdoor maneuvering. So if Cummings will choose somebody who will really help him, try to have some balance and weight on his ticket, because people say Cummings is not electable. He's not electable. When George Weah came from this 49-day trip, he came back to Liberia doing the program at the church. While he was speaking, he put his prepared text aside. He started speaking the Liberian language, and he came up with something called Mendula Oblongata. Everybody started to cheer because they can relate to that kind of talk. Mm-hmm. We all have heard about Mendula Oblongata. When you won't feel very, scholarly or clever. Yes, people relate about Cummings won't say that kind of thing. He's not comfortable in saying that kind of thing. And that is the voting populace there. You got to understand who the voters are. I know they come up with a fancy thing, voter perception survey and all these things. That didn't work in our kind of country. You got to understand our political socialization. So the people who are around him, there's a need for them to sit him down and really tell him, and really educate him on the voting populace in Liberia. Somebody, Brother Kamal, was just saying that the youth vote. How does Cummings relate to young people? Cummings is that athletic. He doesn't play sport. That kind of thing can gravitate you to the people. You watching Real Madrid, you can talk to, lingo.
So which sport did Ellen Johnson play? What sport Ellen Johnson play?
You can compare the two. Ellen Johnson, like Brother Kulak said, she had a Harvard education and all that sophistication, but she could relate to the Liberian people. She could relate to their struggle. She was in jail with people before. She was held as a political ransom. So people relate to that. Cummings doesn't have the kind of gravitas he needs to have, that can make him sellable to the Liberian populace. I will stop there for maybe other people have comments.
Memphis,
yeah. So you conclude on the comments.
I wanted to talk about one comment you made, Memphis, to say that Cummings is not comfortable with using words like medulla or black. I don't think it is the comfort level.
Yeah.
The truth is that he doesn't know it because he did not grow up in the social political environment of Liberia, where people were, like you say, University of Liberia. Cummings probably left from Liberia probably at high school level, right?
No,
you went to Capital.
Okay.
No, I tried that.
The point I'm making here is that if the time Cummings left Liberia, the Liberia at that time and the Liberia today are two different environments.
Yeah, 50 years ago. Yeah, 50 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. So the language in Liberia today, Cummings doesn't know it. And unfortunately, The people that are in Cummins cycle currently, you can name the top 5 people in Cummins cycle, they also don't have that connection. Somebody may say, well, there are people who work in alien administration that are also close to Cummins. True, but they still don't. They are considered, those people that are in Cummins cycle are considered elite. So the pimping rider and the motorbike man, when you call their name, they'll say, I know that person now. I know who you're talking about. But when you call my name like a DeLon in Liberia, most people will connect with him, right? Because he's active in the political system. So
well, there's a difference.
He will not say the medulla or black cat, but he will say something that the young person in Banga will say, this DeLon man, I've been here, but he all time, I want to see this man. But they can connect with Cummins because Cummins cycle is still considered elite cycle. It has to be broken down such that the ordinary person can say, I have access to Mr. Cummins and I can talk to him.
So which vice presidential pick can help him do that? What do you think?
Yes, it's very critical on who he chooses as his vice presidential pick. In normal political environment, what will happen is, the party would throw out some names in the public, maybe 2-3 names in the public, to test the tempo of the political environment or the political weight of that person, and get some feedback, collect data, talk to people, make phone calls, just random sampling. Those things can inform how that person make the jump between a top 5 people that he's considering for vice presidential candidate. In Liberia,
give me some names if you can.
Those technical work.
Give me some names that may help.
I mean, if you ask me, I don't want to throw out names like that because then I'll probably be campaigning for someone, and I don't think the person will, have any interest or not. But I think there are people that I can really.
Just give. But what would be the quality?
Let me give you some names.
You just give us some names.
Let me give you some names, Dennis.
I think Madame Gongloe is very grounded in Liberia political system. She's been there. She served Nima County. She was superintendent for a long time. She contested against the heavyweight Prince Johnson. Then the numbers were relatively sizable for her.
But would she go against her brother though?
Let's go to Councillor Gongloe. So when it comes to the vice presidential pick for Councillor Gongloe, do you think it's something that he's kind of thinking about right now? Or some people have said, well, maybe people that I talked to, some would say, oh, he should go with Cummins, or he should go with Boakai, he should go with. How you look at President Mr. Councillor Gongloe and his VP pick? Let me start with Dr. Duke.
I'll pass.
All right, and this is something that.
Dennis, let me go. Let me take Dr.
When he was asked, because
let me answer.
Yeah, let me add this another layer. When he was asked about being a vice president to any of the other Cummins or Boakai, this is what he said. He said, I'm a better person prepared to redeem the country from its current nightmare under President George Weah. I would back off from the race if any of the candidates are better than me in fighting corruption. So he's not even looking the direction of being anybody's vice president.
Yeah, but if you
Dr. Do you want to come back? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll come back. Anyway, I have to say something.
Let me come back. You still got your chance.
All right.
Just that when I think of Gongloe as candidate, I still think of him as somebody who's just coming on the field. He still has to make a name for himself as a candidate to even think about, choosing a vice presidential candidate. So that's why I say I didn't want to comment on it, because I really don't see him yet as a major candidate until, he drew crowds and, make some grounds on the ground. That's why I did, so I have not thought that far ahead for him.
Dr. Kula.
Well, for what I see with Gongloe is a lawyer, and lawyers are very good at negotiations. So the statement that you put out, to me, that's more or less a negotiating tactic that Gongloe has put out there, right? But if the right person were to come along, either an Omar Boakai or Cummings, that said, look here, man, I need you in my camp. We can do this together. This will be your responsibilities as vice president. Let's work out a deal. And Gongloe puts his offers or demands forward, and they can come to a meeting of the minds. I think Gongloe would quicker go with one of those two, because like the professor said, Gongloe might have that image in the public of being a great man of integrity and all of that, but he hasn't gained much traction either. I don't think he's gained the type of traction that he will now start calling the shots and what.
Glendy?
Is everything. He could play his hand and go with Lema Bowie. We could put her in the ring, given her high profile outside of Liberia and having done some work in Liberia where she's a bona fide grassroots person with the women that used to pray during the Taylor administration and all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Glendy?
So I think, well, I don't know, these statements, they're not meaning anything to me, unfortunately. I think that statement, he's a lawyer. Lawyers sell themselves, they sell their clients. He knows that he doesn't have the prerequisite experience currently, but he's going to do also, that's like a bait. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. And so if I don't find anybody who's as competent as I am, then I'm not going to go with them, or I'm not going to work with these people. So I think for that statement is just saying that I am trying to buy some time to gain the traction that I need here so that I'm able to sell myself out there to the Liberian populace.
Did you say Councillor Gongloe doesn't have the requisite experience?
Requisite experience, when I say when it relates to how he has now been very smart to choose corruption as his central team that no one has been able to do, and how he's been able to choose that team to link it to the work he's done, he's being very smart. Very smart. If you look at Gongloe, you look at Cummings, both of them, they've never, what is the qualification between the two of them? That Gongloe has been here, that he's probably been advocating against corruption, and he's been working with other groups, and he's a lawyer. But what I will say is, I think the central team that he has chosen is going to be something that's going to set him apart from all of the other candidates. And so he's just saying that I mean, he's a lawyer. I myself, I know I'm good. So if I don't see anybody that is as good as I am, then I'm not going to join them.
He was Labour Minister, also Solicitor General, and
exactly.
also President of the Bar Association.
He was Labour Minister. He was Solicitor General. He's also been advocating for people that have been, arbitrarily arrested and sent, to prison. He goes there, fight for them without a fee. He does a lot of ordinary poor people like Councillor Gongloe. Just
that's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm saying he's a smart man. He's a lawyer.
Let Morris continue now and tell me about the VP pick for Councillor Gongloe. What I
think the statement is Liberia's problem is not just corruption, and even if you're going to talk about corruption as your basis, which my sister just talked about, is good, but when you get elected, there are plenty of other things you have to do. The country corruption story is not just in the public service. Corruption is an endemic issue in the Liberian society, and to fix that, public officials in Liberia are only a mirror image of the society. So you got to fix the society to fix what's happening in public office.
He's got a 10-point plan, so it's not corruption alone.
Yeah, it's not corruption. But I mean, the statement talk about he's measuring his qualification on corruption. Okay. He's saying if you find anybody out there that can find corruption better than me.
And he's limiting it.
So basically,
he's limited to that.
Yeah, he's basically telling me that his qualification is to fight corruption, which is a good thing.
Can I just say something quick?
So John,
10 seconds.
I mean,
let's Dr. Du go 10 seconds, and then Dualo, then Mr. Duopu.
I think the other problem, choosing the theme of corruption is, Liberian people are very cynical by corruption.
Yes.
They have seen in 1980, rampant corruption. And then Doe came in and said, yeah, Taylor came, yeah, corruption, tribalism, blah, 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 blah. Ellen came with a, big pancart, corruption fight. And what she said when she was going, a vampire. So Liberian people heard that, they're seeing it. So we better talk about accountability and impunity. The issue of impunity and an accountability. And then that means you put systems in place to fight it. But when you just say, yeah, I'll fight corruption, people get killed for that, for nothing.
Dualo.
Yeah, John, I want to say this. I don't want to skip over this. I don't know who mentioned it. A few people did mention it, actually, about Mr. Cummings not relating to the people of Liberia. What I want people to understand is, on the level of the presidency, it's not a child's play thing. Okay? Yes, I agree Mr. Cummings has to find a way to indigenize his strategy. I understand that. But when we talk about sophistication in our country, we think it's a bad thing in many instances. It's actually a good thing. If you're going to produce at a very high level, it comes with a higher intellect and a higher production level to be able to do that. So, and I'm not saying anybody on the show did say this, but I want to say this. We equate not being cool with the low man to being too bourgeois for the society. By default, we may not say explicitly, but it's implied. And this is bad for the society. To produce at a higher level, you have to be at a very high level. This is what we should want for our society. I'll come back to Mr. Gongloe. Look, Mr. Gongloe realizes one thing. He's leaving the door open. The statement is nuanced in a way that said, listen, I understand I'm not getting the kind of traction I should be getting. If somebody brings me on board or willing to bring me on board, I'm open to that as well. It's not just an issue of corruption. Mr. Gongloe understands this. He's not getting the traction. Not that he has the resources to even make it into. And I want to say this also. A lot of people go as presidential candidate in the beginning, not because they know they're going to win. They're trying to leverage that position so other people can see them and bring them on. And that's how we do constantly to the society. This is what I tell people all the time. We have to find a way to isolate these stragglers that just burdening the political space. Because all it's doing to our country is not moving the country forward. It's killing us. I'll give it back to you guys.
Do we see, and let me start with you, Mr. Duopu, and you can also answer the first one, but do we see these three presidential candidates working out something where we're going to have all three of them coming together, or we have Gongloe Cummings coming together, Gongloe Boakai, or Cummings Boakai coming together to make one ticket? Is there a possibility? And what's good about that or bad about that?
Well, it's a good thing we'll have a very vibrant, and viable opposition, institution, because it keeps the government's feet to the fire. It provides alternative, But what I want to say, coming back to the Cummins issue and the statements that have been made by Cummins, Gongloe, Boakai, in politics is difficult when you put yourself in a zero-sum bind where you draw a line in the sand. I can't take this. I can't take this. I can't work with this kind of person. I mean, I can't be nobody's vice president. We make that kind of statement, in the political, arena. It haunts you. Because you lose face when you default to. Statement you made your line in the sand, and you come back and you can't really
take it back.
Meet that high bar you've set for yourself. So it's very troubling in our political system in our country, especially now when you talk about Cummins and Boakai. You see a lot of bad blood. I mean, even their supporters, they can't see eye to eye on basic things, and their overarching goal is for the benefit of Liberian people to move Liberia forward. But for what I see is for them for their own personal, political goals, their own personal thing. They're using Liberian people as scapegoats. So for you to just draw a line in the sand, I have the best, record on corruption, and I don't see anybody who record kind of outshines mine or kind of, those are very troubling statements. I think people who are advising these people should really call them, in a little meeting and say, look, you can't be making any kind of statement that just zero sum, because politics should be variable sum. You win some here, making concessions here, that happen. Because if you choose your
Mr. Duopu, who goes into a race and say, and don't tell
me, let me lay as a student of politics, because a vice presidential candidate can either be an attack dog, you dare to attack the other person's candidate and stuff like that, or you be the elder, the adult in the room who will calm things down, who will be that person who people can say, yeah, this person, is the adult in the room. If you have a feisty presidential candidate, you should have somebody who will be the adult in the room, because if you become vice president, you'll be head of the Senate. That is where the elders are. You'll be spreading the legislative agenda for your boss. So I would just say Cummins' statement, Boakai's statement, and Tiawan's statement. Those are that statement that you just use as a blanketed statement that you just stand by those things, and you can't even reverse course. There's no room for negotiation. I don't see them coming together really. If they came together and somebody can just swallow their pride and say, yeah, because George Weah became vice president for how many presidents? You can't even remember. So those were, you cannot say because he's not sophisticated in terms of measuring with the Cummins or the Gongloes, but in terms of political savviness, I think he has better political IQ.
More savvy.
He's more savvy. He's more kind of nuanced to the politics than this guy with a education and experience. So they can learn from George Weah too. I know, that's something you can. If you think the president is at the level of sophistication, so George Weah can use that. They can use that too, and and reach their goals.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. Between the headlines, we are discussing the choice of vice presidential running mates for Boakai, Cummins, and Gongloe. And the question I'm asking now, before we bring in our callers, if you want to be part of the conversation, the number is on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. If you call 1 minute, let's knock it down, as we have barely 32 minutes to close the show. So, Dr. Duke, which combination is it probable that three of them or either two of them come together, and what is that going to do for election 2023 in their quest to make President Weah a one-term president? Oh, Dr. Duke, unmute yourself, please.
Dennis, can I come in real quick after him? I'll forget this part.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm here, but he was going to say something. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Kula.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what Dwala was saying earlier about the sophistication and elitism not being a bad thing when you get up to the presidency. I think the problem with Liberia, since I grew up as a kid in Liberia, we put ourselves in a box too much, right? If you are educated,
question that's on the floor, we want to take our callers now. I wanted for us to talk about the combination Boakai, Cummins, Boakai, Gongloe, Cummins, Gongloe, Boakai.
I'm getting to that, but I want to say something here. If you're educated, you tend not to get to where you reach out to the poor people. Here in America, they say all politics is local, right? Where when George Bush, for example, was running for president, I think it was George Bush, and somebody said, this is a guy I would like to drink a beer with. Our presidential candidates have to be able to be relatable. And now coming to what you're talking about in terms of, Boakai, Cummings, and whether these people can come together, I'll go back to what I said earlier. The women or some group of Liberians who want to save our country need to come together and reach out to these people and let them find a way to come together and make this thing happen for us.
Okay, if I have to talk about that same question, taking that same question, I could ask you, don't you think it's much easier to beat someone like one ticket than it is to beat two? I mean, just, I'm asking a question.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be easier to have a strong Boakai campaign, a strong Cummins campaign, each getting enough votes to go to the second round? Why not? If the two of them can work together, I'm just thinking, from that aspect of it. And that, it's easier to cheat on one ticket than it is to own two tickets.
So what's about each of any one of them working with Councillor Gongloe?
I think he's saying that should be at the second when they get to the second round.
Yeah.
So go to first.
Go ahead, Glendy.
No, he was saying go to first round individually, and when you get after the first round, then you can merge.
Yeah.
Has it really worked? Because we saw that with the Ganta Accord, where they went to Ganta and said, yes, when we go to the second round, what happens?
Yeah, but about second round in 2005, we did something with Ellen. Everybody was coming in after the first round. It was Joshua and Ellen. So everybody was coming in. I have this number of votes. I have this minister. I want this and that. So Maurice Ducla and I decided to do a survey. We went through radio stations and LU campus. We recruited a few people to send them out. 85% of the people said in the second round, I vote my own conscience. I will not follow anybody else. My first vote, I'll give it to my candidate. But the second time, 82 to 85%. We did it 3 times. And after that, Ellen said, yes, then I don't need anyone. That's why she never took anyone. Everybody went to George Weah, and they didn't bring their votes.
I totally agree, Dr. Duke. The only problem I have with that 2005 versus 2023 is that 2023 has a likelihood of voter apathy. There's a likelihood that people may get tired and frustrated with the system and say, you know what, I'm not voting. And so the reason why you need that political collaboration is that some of these political leaders will inspire the voters to go out there and vote. Whether that impact is measurable or not at this point, I can't say, but I'm just assuming that I can see a reason why it'll make sense to do some sort of collaboration now with it's okay for everybody to run. I totally agree with that. Everybody run in the first round, whoever make it to the second round, let's find a way to, breach some of the animosity and some of the anger, some of the outrage. Let's solve some of that problem. Let's sit, as the opposition bloc and figure out how the governance system should look like. And then probably, get everybody on the same boat and go against President Weah and see if we can get him.
But you can work on the same project without being on the same team.
True.
Yeah, but in the second round, there is always concession. Politics is about concession. You have to be able to discuss and concede something. You can't win unless you give something and take something,
Let me bring in our callers to add to the discussion. The first caller here is Elvis Morris. He's been here 8 minutes now. Elvis, go ahead. You're live. 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Mr. John. Firstly, I would like to say my first choice for both of the candidates in Boakai and Cummins will be Gongloe, 1A for both candidates, but only one of them can obviously get them. And then I'll go outside of the box for Cummins. Why not somebody like Yeke Koluba? Now, is there a law against, somebody who has a big mouth and who is
Henry Costa,
who is doing all kinds of things? It's not a law against him being vice president, but he has the bona fides, in terms of Liberian politics and the people that follow him. He speaks the people language to the rawest, level.
You got a
and
point.
He's quite popular in Monserrato.
Yeah.
So why not somebody like that? Like we're talking about sophistication and people who are quote unquote, dignified individuals. But you can go, completely opposite of Cummins. Somebody who is out there, who is brash, who doesn't hold back. Somebody like Koluba could be a good vice president. And then for Boakai, you can go with somebody like Amir Conan, somebody who is well equipped, who is industrious, who is a great manager, who is very, very intelligent, who has worked in government before. They're part of the same party, so perhaps they share similar ideology.
Right.
That could be a good pick for him. So that would just be my contribution. Thank you so much.
Yeah, except that Boakai is from Lofa and Amara is from neighboring Bapolo. I don't know if that's going to work. Let me go to Norris Johnson. You're live. Go ahead. Go ahead. You have 1 minute. 3495. Your name and where you calling from. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I said thanks for the opportunity, and I've been sitting and watching the show, and this is just a little thing that I want us to be cognizant of, and I want to encourage all of you to really do good and do well. I know all of you guys got good heart for Liberia. It seems that we're trying to praise people that are like George. We're kind of people who want to be called doctor 3 times, but have not written a single dissertation. We're saying that is okay. But people like Cummins who have that corporate background, where we can say we can point and encourage our children to be educated like him, that if you go to school, there's the benefit, there's the dividend. And we're saying that he's so smart, he's so educated, we don't need him because he doesn't understand Liberia's English or Liberia's problem. However, the problems that we have in Liberia have not been solved by those that can relate to our deity people in the markets or on our streets and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So what is the message that we're teaching?
Right.
Are we standing? I think we should be more lean towards education is okay. We want people who have been tested, who can deliver results. Cummings has proven that. I think we should give him the opportunity. It's our responsibility to educate our community as well.
And how has Cummings proven that? Unlike the other candidates,
America, exactly. Even right now, as I can speak to you, when you go to apply for a job, it's not about your resume. How well do you defend your resume? If you can stand before a corporate board and debate your knowledge, your experience for 2, 3, 4 hours, of course, that's the first beginning. But we don't do that in Liberia. Somebody can go and write a whole lot of resume and submit. They pay somebody to write the resume for them, and the same thing that we.
How does that relate to the 3 presidential candidates we are discussing? Is there anyone who falsified their resume?
My point here is, the 3 here. George Weah. Did we ever look at resume?
We're not talking George Weah yet. We're talking the 3 opposition candidates.
My point here has been is about Liberia, right?
Okay.
My contribution is about Liberia. I don't want to just narrow it down to 2 or 3 people. It's about Liberia.
Got you.
That's my concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to John Maulo.
Yeah, good evening, guys, and lady, Glennie. Listen, it's amazing that a group of Liberians, educated Liberians, sit down and call other Liberian elite. And who are you? Have we debased our country to the point where we think it is the criterion now to be president that you got to be street worthy? Is that what we're saying here? Dwalu said something that we all should be thinking about. We're talking about our country. We're talking about moving our country forward. We're talking about the best of us to move our country forward, to be able to go out there and negotiate and bring in the bread. If you want George Weah, they can play football. They can relate to these people on the street. But what have they been able to get for us? What have they been able to get for the people on the street? The second thing is that we got to look at the intent of each of the different people that are running.
Intent?
Some people run for the presidency because they're looking for a job.
John.
Some people look for the presidency to get to an end to a means. Yes, what you were saying?
Yeah, I said, how do we judge intent? It's inside there, we don't know.
How do you judge intent? It's like when you meet a lady, what do? You take her out and you listen to her. Are we listening?
Dennis Mawolo is one of those who was in Cummings camp.
Without the result that we want to get. What do we need in Liberia? That's the question we should be asking as Liberians before we talk about who we're going to vote for. What do we need? Who amongst these people is most capable of bringing this thing that we need to better our lives?
And who you think?
That's the question we should be concerned about.
Let Mawolo make full disclosure. He's one of those who's advising Cummings.
I've been out of Liberia for so many years.
All right.
I speak the way I speak. Don't expect me to speak like somebody in Equator. It's not going to happen. I never felt that way, even when I lived in Liberia.
Thank you. I hope you are not.
Dwalu, can you explain to Mawolo what we're trying to say here? He's one of those who are advising Cummings. Dwalu, explain to this man, let him understand that you have to win an election. You have to win before you can govern.
Let me take the next caller. Please jot down your points. Let me take the callers quickly. Next caller.
Look how competent you are. You have to win before you can govern.
614. Yeah, your name and where you calling from?
Okay, I'm Pastor Moore. I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Go ahead, Pastor Moore. You are live.
Thank you. It is a good show tonight, and I want to say kudos to your many panelists. You know, it is interesting that we're still thinking who we want to make president of Liberia, and our common goal here is to make sure that we unseat George Weah democratically. And I think the only way we can unseat George Weah is it's time for opposition to come together. I think it's late, and I think Cummins and Boakai ticket would have been the best one. But why would Cummins come into collaboration with his colleagues and recruiting from the party? That was very wrong, because if we are coming together to unseat a government that is not doing the right thing for our country, there's only a need recruiting from the Job Party and maybe also recruiting from Dwalu. I think we should go out and recruit from the ruling party to strengthen us that we can be able to unseat them. If I will go for any ticket right now, for any ticket and based on experience, I will take Omen Boakai, and I would love for him to go with Nyombi Kanga.
Thank you. And that's how I like people to end. Thank you. You say you want Boakai and Nyombi. Let's go to our next caller here, Stephen McGill. Is that the name? Please go ahead. You're live. 1 minute, please. I'm trying to unmute you, Stephen. Something is happening here. Okay, go ahead, Stephen McGill. 267 area code. Go ahead, you're live. 1 minute, please. Okay, that's not happening. Let's go to Cyrus McGee.
Yes, sir. Mr. John, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, let me say good evening to you and season greetings to you and your panelists. Great job this evening. I mean, the Liberian people are getting educated as it relates to the people who are seeking leadership in our country. But let me start by saying that with 10 months to go in the elections, I believe the Liberian people were looking up to their opposition leaders to form a unity by this time to keep Mr. Weah on his feet, you know. But at this time, we're still thinking about whether opposition should come together, who can pick who. That shouldn't be the story right now. If people are looking up to their leaders for direction, and if they are still divided, that is not a good sign for our country. If you look around and see the amount of people who you saw gathered at CDC headquarters the other day, majority of those people did not vote in our last elections. There were young people, majority of them were young people who just turned 18, just turned 19, just turned 20 or 21 for the first time to vote. What are we doing? What are our opposition leaders doing to unite and make sure that these people are redirected? Up to now, we still see division, people fighting people in different parties. There are cases before the Elections Commission, there are political parties in the code. I mean, that's a wrong thing for our country. If the people who need a change in leadership are looking up to you for direction at this time, 10 months to election, these things are still happening. But yet still, it's not too late. If they can put their egos behind them and look at the history of Gambia, how the Yayas are really power. All of the oppositions put together and felt that we must carry one person, we must support this person against all odds. At the 11th hour, Yami could not do nothing but go to election. And there were two parties election, and you saw what happened in Gambia. So the ego need to be put aside and let them redirect the mindset of the Liberian people into the positive direction. So then, we still see this thing until October. It will not be a good thing for the opposition community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me go back to Stephen McGill now, 267 area code. You're live.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. John, and thank you to the panelists. My thing is that we cannot give power to the presidential aspirant versus the VPs, and I think that is also a wrong precedent in our political landscape, because if we look at what they did in the U.S., Biden and Kamala Harris had a debate. So why is it that the party who also sent a parent also have a mechanism put in place that VP will be vetted on the basis of their merit and what they bring to the table? So that way you have to investigate and also and get all the prerequisites that are set to lead, then just giving all of that power to just one the president as a whole, because the president may not make good suggestion or a good pick as related to President Boakai and Nukwe, and we saw all of that. So why are we still going back to reinvent the wheel and still making the same mistake over and over? One mistake made in 2017 cannot be made in 2023. And my best wish would be that if you all can go together and say, because of Liberia, probably have the Liberian elders and people of the world to call a national conference, so all of these leaders will come in one room and talk about leading Liberia in a way forward, because some of us, we are young people and we just see it being played by the people who hijack the country as a way of either they have money or education or they know how to go towards political agenda for their own self-gain and greed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Let me go to Joe Moyo. Go ahead, Joe. You were live.
Hey, Dennis.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Dennis. Great discussion tonight. This platform is the number one platform for Nigerian politics.
Since 1822.
It's always been.
Thank you.
Look, our problem, I think, I look at the names that were mentioned for possible VP and even the presidential candidate. Our main problem in Liberia is that we do not have functioning institutions. All our institutions are broken. The people that
all of
you
them
mentioned as possible VP candidates, none of them work out of Liberia. They all came from the same broken institutions, corrupt institutions. The only candidate running for president, and I may be biased, that has actually worked in a functional institution, and before him was Ellie Johnson Sally, is now Cummings. Boakai never worked in any institution. All he knows is how things work in Liberia. And from the history of Liberia, we know things are malfunctioning.
No, man, you can say that. I mean,
no, I can say because I was born there. I left Liberia when I was about 24, 25 years old.
You were still small. You were still small, 24.
So what I'm trying to say, we need to
So you are saying the criteria now is to work outside Liberia,
So see how
so we're flipping it.
Boakai doesn't know it. He never worked out of Liberia before. The same thing with Gongloe. They are all products of broken institutions in Liberia. So if we want to move from where we are to the next level, we have to have somebody that values institutions. Even the vice president, somebody mentioned Louis Brown. Louis Brown is a product of the Civil War, and he's a product of broken institutions as well.
And Mr. Cummins said he can win with good people and bad people. That's why he got him.
So Cummings' problem, and I think two people on the panel, they did a good job at underscoring it. He doesn't have the charisma, and he's not a good storyteller. And those are two things that are very critical if you want to, if you want to succeed in politics in Liberia, and retail politics. He doesn't have that at all. He's a nice guy, like,
So which vice presidential? All right, which VP candidate can help him do that? You think?
Well, if I just go out there and say, look, forget the institution business, go and grab a cross-party line, grab Darius Dillon. Dillon did an excellent job in marketing himself. He knows it.
Today I saw him again sitting at Boakai feet. So I said, DeLong again. You started again. All right, let me go to our next caller. That was a joke. Let's take Tawa Johnson, and then we got two more. Tawa Johnson, then someone from East Boston, and then Thomas Cannon. We go back to our panelists. Go ahead, next caller, 215 code.
How you doing, Mr. John? Thank you for taking my call. I want to say how you doing all the candidates. The topic tonight is Mr. John, Liberia don't have no opposition. There is no opposition for George Mahania.
Okay.
All the opposition are joke. They are playful people. The time they had the opportunity were in the CPP. When they came together, I support we have now division. That was a strong force. That force were going to take George Weah from there. They brought DeLong, they brought Youngbley, they brought a lot of opposition people in the house. Paul Charles, you can go on and on. They were ready together. But the people came in, put document together. Boakai go on his stand and say, you know, Cummins. So how can you be fighting with somebody else? I don't know. If I was there, how can two work together if they don't agree? You know what I get for Cummins? I get that the cooler that's sitting in the studio there. That the cooler will be a good familiar force for. The cooler is sitting out there asking, you like, well, man, you from Google time, you go now. You can tell him, yeah, like,
oh, you go now?
You can draw ABC. ABC don't know how to draw it all. You can join it. I'm serious. I put it on and start the testing. I'm very serious. You'll be a good back for Kula for ABC. For Boakai, ain't got nobody still looking for people. Or when you say Gongloe, you know, be sweeping the labor force. You're in early government. You don't even know the unemployment force that you have. How can you be president? You don't know your unemployment rate as a minister in your unemployment. How you don't know the rate? If I ask you when I tell you the rate and you are minister for labor force, then you tell me. If you don't know your own statistics, how can you be a president for my country and say sweeping? Why ain't sweeping?
Thank you.
Come up?
That's a whole different lecture now.
I know, right?
Thank you. Let me get this caller from a 617 area code. Maurice, are you?
No. This is Tony Kura.
Oh, Reverend Kura, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to thank you so much for giving me the chance. For my 1 minute, I will start with just trying to answer your question. I think that Honorable Boakai, Ambassador Boakai, Councilor Gongloe, and Cummings need to just do within their party, do some sort of a primary or contest within the party to find who's the best person in country that they can carry as a VP. That's doing the best thing. That would give them a chance to explore other sectors of the country, etc. I think that's the best thing they can do. Having said that, my own position for the country moving forward, people should stop thinking about who can we bring to bring the bread from outside the country to our people, or this business of the idea that politicians are the only ones who can develop a democratic country to become sustainably developed. I think we all know, and if you don't know, you need to find out. Our country, Liberia, is broken and corrupt by design of the United States government, the prime corporate, then the slave masters who created the colony. Our country is broken in 200 years. In 5 days, we'll be coming to the end of 200 years of American colonization and corruption. And I think we don't need a leader from my own perspective. What we need to find is a new birth of a new nation, a new authentic African nation with African names. Our name Liberia didn't come from us. Name Monrovia didn't come from us. It's all Buddha slave masters that people don't even know in Liberia that these people were brutal slave masters. We don't have one abolitionist named honored in Liberia. And so what I think moving forward, all of the people in Liberia are human beings made in the image of God, potential scientists, engineers, inventors, but without access to opportunities without quality education is going to go nowhere with even the best politician. And therefore, we are calling for a recognition of Liberia as a broken country, broken by design of a corrupt leadership of the United States, and to call for visa waiver for all Liberians to have access to quality education just like us, and they will return to build a country that is not going to be reliant on people coming in to mine all the gold. Right now, they're taking gold out of Liberia like crazy.
Thank you, Reverend Kula.
We don't even have the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
A new system, not a new leader. We get a system first, and then we can talk about the leadership.
Well taken. Let me go to Mr. Thomas Kane, and then we have Habib, and close down our phone lines. Thomas, go ahead, sir. You have 1 minute. After you have Habib.
Hey, Dennis. Hi. Good evening to everyone on the show tonight. I think we will not have had this discussion. I don't even think Councillor Gongloe will be discussing who his running mate would have been if Mr. Cummins had not demonstrated what I will refer to as political arrogance. I think to enter the political race, you are running for your second time, and to consistently say that the only position you can take in that country is the presidency, and failing to realize as a corporate executive that in as much as in the private sector, you invest in a business and expand on the business based on your capital, it is also applicable to politics that you don't overlook political capital. To overlook political capital and say that you can't take any other position, I think has driven us to have all of these discussions. So for me, the only message I have for all these political leaders, like someone said, that we need elders to really be able to talk to them so that they can figure out exactly what to do for this 2023 election. Because this discussion about they should wait and go to second round, if they are not very careful and the incumbent is ahead of the person who goes in the second round by a margin of 5 to 6 to 7%, let them just forget about the runoff. Because the ruling party has the resources to her disposal and will be able to buy all of these smaller political parties.
Yeah.
That is still a risky venture. So I think as elders, they should come together to be able to figure out what to do. And if they don't do it, we as the young people behind them, we are going to punish them after 2023. If any of them think they can do anything in 2023 and they wait for 2029 to become president, they will have us to contend with. If they can't act as wise men in these 2023 elections. Thank you very much.
You're right. That time myself will be running. Let me take my last caller here. That's Habib Sharif. You're live, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Habib Sharif from Washington, D.C. Thank you for the show. I just wanted to add my voice as well because we're all Liberians. I believe we want the best for our country. Some of us know the way we knew Liberia is not the way Liberia is today, but a lot of things contributed to that. But we should not, continue making the same mistakes. What I'll say, I think like a little child, even though I'm up in age. What I'll say at this point, Liberia is in a very delicate position, and I think when we come out and say we want Joseph Boakai to be president, it's not because he's my grandpa. It's not because he's my family person, but I'm just looking at the record. No negative or dirt stain on him. Therefore, I'll go with him. As a VP, just to get things energized, I think we need that. I'll go with a young Kanga Lawrence for the female aspect. I say this because we have to learn to govern ourselves. This is our time. These are the decisions we have to make. With the current president, definitely we're not going anywhere. We're going deeper in the hole. Nothing against him, but it's just a lack of leadership. So we need to take this very seriously because this is the life, this is our life now, and it's the life of our kids and unborn kids to come.
Thank you.
So I think Liberians, I hope we who are here speaking on this panel, I see everybody, Fonse, COL, I hope what we say here, our people in Liberia also, I don't know how many people are really engaged. A lot of time when you listen to people back home, they don't know what we're even talking about. They know the election is coming 2023, but they don't know. And we need to find a way to get those people, our people, to be more engaged and know that, hey, the decision you make today, this will be the outcome. A lot of people that got us, I don't want to say in this mess, but yeah, we're in a mess. It was made by people, the majority decided for us. So let's be very wise. And I'll say Boakai and Yombli Kanga just to get things energized so we can put the country back on track for success. Thank you.
Thank you. Can Yombli be president on day one, you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, any one of those people we're talking about, can Boakai be president? We would say that because he's been a vice president. Liberia is an easy place. Currently, we have a president that goes sick somewhere for 48 days, and the country still runs, right?
That boy won't change again. All right, but thank you so much. We still got callers coming. There are still 3 more callers, but let me go back to my panel so that we can respond to this to the callers quickly. Let me start with you, Dr. Kula, because you've been shortlisted as a vice presidential candidate.
That's a very interesting one right there. But I want to speak to what I think John Mawolo was his name, or was it? What was it?
You know the man.
No, I don't know. I had an interaction with him once on another show, and I was told that he is Mr. ANC. So apparently he's one of those who's advising Mr. Cummings. And every time he comes on a show, he tends to hear what we're saying, but it doesn't seem to register. Nobody on here is saying that Mr. Cummings need to talk like the president in Nuku Town or has to, act like the football player or bring himself. That's not what we're saying. Every politics is local. When what a fella name that became president here, when Barack Obama went on the south side of Chicago to be a community organizer, he knew the culture of the people, the history of the people, and he brought himself down to the point where those old ladies on the south side of Chicago that didn't have a Harvard education could relate to him and believe in him to the point where they voted him to the Senate. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Kula.
I'm not done. Let me finish. Let me finish. So whoever's advising the John Mallows of this world, the people around Cummings, they need to learn to understand the psyche of any culture that you're trying to govern. You got to understand the people. You got to be able to let the people see themselves in you. How you think the rednecks in America were able to vote a billionaire in Trump, even though he has no kind of affiliation with those people, but somehow they were able to relate to him. That's what we're talking about. That those people could see themselves in that man or see their interest in him enough for them to vote for him. That's what we're saying. We say go talk like the street president or go talk colloquia. Come on, man.
Thank you. Let me get your thoughts 1 minute, and then we go back to get our last callers. These are our regular callers. We don't want to leave them hanging. Respond to our callers, please. Yes, quickly. Wendy?
So I mean, I think they're all saying some of the same things. Kind of interesting that somebody said that we want someone who has experience outside of Liberia, and then the other group is saying that we don't have the prerequisite experience for Liberia. One of the things I wanted to go back on was the fact with Councillor Gongloe. I was saying that not that he's not qualified, but I was saying that he doesn't have the politicians call it gravitas. That's a word my dad used to always use. Doesn't have the political gravitas at this time to be the one to sell the corruption story, and it cannot be the only thing that he's selling. That's what I was trying to say. But other than that, I mean, we're here. Some people came out all right and pick who they want. Some people said Cummings, Boakai, and Yombli, so we'll see.
Let me get Aliyu Kamara. Aliyu, this time we want 30 seconds each. Aliyu, go ahead quickly, please. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Aliyu. Huh?
What you said?
Go ahead, Aliyu. You are live. 30 seconds.
Okay. No problem. Well, you guys are having a great show, and it's a very tough question, but we're going to show you that the ambassador, Honorable Joe Yumabwaka, will in the next 90 days. I give it 60, but just to be on the safe side, I give you 90 days. He'll be coming up with the name of his vice president.
He said in January, you putting it to 90 days?
I'm giving you 90 days. The information I have is February.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, that's the information I have.
And who can you make a guess who you think is going to pick?
Well, again, this is not going to be just Ambassador Boakai's decision. There is, as we speak, there is an unofficial coalition that is collaborating with the United Party, a bunch of other political parties, astute politicians. So they're all working on so many different things.
Thank you.
We're also, do not be surprised to see Cummings Gongloe right in the middle of the picture. And I am not announcing anything, but there's a possibility it can be Yombly, or it can be someone that no one has heard about in this entire saga. So very soon, you have what you're looking for. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Madison Camus, please go ahead. 30 seconds, please. Go ahead. You're live.
I don't have much to say.
You're very low.
I don't have much to say. I just want to thank you guys.
All right.
All I want to say is that I don't know how
Thank you. Your voice is very. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not getting you, but you said they're going to vote. We are out. Terita Yankon, please. You have 30 seconds. I know you are Sidishan. You don't have to introduce yourself, so go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance, Judge. This is Terita Lion Yankon.
You see?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that the Liberian people should accept no last minute to time. How does I don't tell people friendship or coalition, so-called coalition. Oh yeah, we are united. Last time come for unity from the opposition. That is wrong. We did engineers for Liberians that said that those are people that on the platform that made that platform so dynamic. The intellectual Liberians. Now, please, for God's sake, let we try and pull forth the goodness of this country instead of just using rhetoric or whatsoever way to tear one another down. We know that President Weah is the one that kicked the ball high in the sky. We are in the mid-45th to the 50th. We know the reality. We know the one besides God, the way and truth and life for this country is President George Manuel Weah.
Thank you.
Let's support the man instead of just trying to support this opposition. They come to a last minute kind of unity. That's wrong. They would have put themselves together, but they never did. They destroy the CPP because while they are proven simplicity, they cannot govern themselves to progress of the country to govern this country, Liberia. Just when we have shown us our generation development and other things, it's a multiple, development.
Thank you, Teddy.
We will put ourselves behind George Manuel Weah. Thank you.
Thank you. The last caller here is Hassan. Hassan, go ahead quickly, please. 30 seconds.
Yeah, Dennis. Thank you for the show. Your last caller that you just have a phone, he needs to know that if you're in Labrador today, you will be unemployed and you will probably be on school. But I know what about. I would like to see a Cummings Gongloe ticket that will show that Cummings actually want to fight corruption. We all know corruption is susu in Labrador. Joseph Baga been now in that system for over 40 years now. And when he got to be president, he will have to pay. Just we have to pay for his test member, just we have to give money to his when I think his mother-in-law who passed or whoever passed, just we have got his son in American, Joseph Baga. Right? So another thing is susu. I don't know what Joseph Baga put in the set. When he gets there, he's going to do the same thing that Joseph is doing. Pay his debt that everybody there voted for him. So I would like to see to close. I would love to see Cummins Gongloe take it, and I pray it happens.
Thank you so much. With that, we're going to be ending our course tonight. We also want to remind our viewers that focus on Liberia. We want to expand our operation in Liberia. So we have launched a fund drive to raise just $10,000. So your $10, $20 chip in and help us expand our operations in Liberia, so that the good things that you in the diaspora are benefiting from, Liberians too in the homeland can benefit, because by far focus on Liberia is the best since 1847, as somebody said.
1822.
Please support us. Let's go back. I know our time is fast spent, so let's be able to wrap this up. Your reaction to the colors and also your closing.
Let me do my own first, since I'm already up. I want to say this, John. There's a way you can gauge intent. If he asks the right questions, I think you can gauge intent. We have to make sure our journalists in Liberia, up their skills. And I want to say this: yeah, the fragmentation in the opposition, but when everything is said and done, if we get to the second round, President Weah will be a gunner. And I want to say this about President
Politics
Weah.
is never in a straight line. So this
No, I understand that. I understand
unity,
that.
yeah.
But President Weah poses an existential threat to this republic. Like Balankula said, if we make a mistake and we do not pay attention, and we elect this man child to continue at the helm of power in Liberia, we will not recognize Liberia. The man has no business near the presidency. We continue to toy around with this country, and we gave this country to children mentally. I'm not talking about in the actual numeric age, but mentally, President Weah is a child. He has no business near the presidency. We have to take this country serious if we want to be judged in the proper way by posterity. What legacy we're going to leave to this country? President Weah must go. He must go yesterday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Dupu?
Thank you very much. And I think one of the callers were talking about not talking to somebody from Nigrutan. I was taken aback by that, because I'm from Nigrutan. So I don't know, if he has some beef with people from Nigrutan, but aside from that, coming back to the topic about the selection of a vice presidential candidate, and we've all said what we want to say, and we've all contributed to that. But my parting comment would be, you cannot view politics as a zero-sum game. You have to be adaptable. You have to be relatable to the issues. And what the statements that you put on about Ambassador Boakai, Mr. Cummins, and Mr. Gongloe, I'll go back to, reiterating that point, that those statements were just like a line in the sand. You can't do that, because they should also remember that President Weah, there's power in incumbency. President Weah is not sitting with his hands between his legs and not working towards his re-election. I think somebody mentioned that President Weah is a child. I think that kind of characterization is wrong. I don't think President Weah is a child. I think why it's true that he doesn't have the kind of sophistication that other people, or the Cummins, the Boakais, and the Gongloes might have.
What is that? What is sophistication? What is that?
I mean, look at in the prism of education,
no, the proper pedigree. If you want me, I can describe it for you.
Yeah, but
the proper pedigree.
That kind of characterization, I don't think, I think it's wrong to just say he's a child and all that. The man is president of the country. I mean, he has his own faults, but there are a lot of good things that he's done.
He's a child mentally.
That's an argument that could be held, but I mean, you can't characterize him. You can be condescending into the extent where it's almost like abusing, the president. So let elevate the discourse. Let give it some level of pragmatism here. The people listening. I mean, a lot of people listening, a lot of people contributing, and the callers, from the calls that I heard, people are angry with the opposition itself. It's fragmented. It's not is that if an opposition that's real, putting Liberian people first. You see all the political jockeying for power, people bringing their personal ego and all that stuff. They can't be, vice president to one another and all that stuff. People are talking about the different combination and permutation. It reminded me of my mathematics class as a freshman in Liberia College at the university. All the decision making and all that.
You didn't do that in 12th grade?
No, I did it for my freshman math class. So, but they take away from all the other things that was said. I mean, people came with very brilliant ideas, and the panel, very, very intelligent panel. We have our elder here, Ambassador Dukley, who I'm sure my dad, knew and all that. Somebody who I met when Dr. Sawyer was interim president, and pleasure meeting Brother Kula, Brother Dualu, Brother Kroman, our sister, Glenny. So, I mean, there was a very, very livid discussion, and I think the audience have heard, have listened, and they've benefited from our discourse. So let always elevate the discourse. Let make it, something that people can learn from. We all can learn from each other. When we walk away from these kind of discussion, it should be for the betterment of our country, So I want to thank you, Mr. Jah, for the opportunity you've accorded me. And I want to also, wish all of you a very pleasant night and a prosperous new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Glennie?
So I want to stick to when the first question, in picking your running mate, I want to encourage the candidates to probably make their own list, make a list of positive and negative for your individual self, and see how it is that you can find a candidate for VP that is going to be able to fit those negatives that you have and turn them into positives. Another thing will also mean is there's so many people are predicting who's going to go with who. I think one of the things I keep referring to Joe Biden, one of the things that Joe Biden did was to pick who the people wanted, who the people expected him to pick. And I think that was a plus for him. So I want to encourage them not to go by what people say. You also have to see, and it's like people say, if you see Boakai is probably an introvert. Cummings is an introvert. Gongloe is an introvert. I don't know him to be an extrovert. So it's almost like the three of them or the two of them on a ticket. How is that going to be able to help promote their agenda? What I would do is just encourage them to be able to find a candidate who can best sell them to the Liberian people, do a lot of walking, do a lot of talking, and encourage them. And it's always a pleasure, Dennis. Even though I'm a little bit under the weather, but I was able to do this. I want to say thank you for the opportunity. This is what we need to do to continue to keep the discussion going, to elevate this discussion so that people will learn something from what we're saying. Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Morris.
Dennis, thank you again for having me tonight. It was really a great conversation with some of our big brothers and some of my colleagues. I enjoyed discussing some of the issues that we talked about. But I wanted to also respond to some of the callers. I know one of the callers was talking about how the idea of us talking about elite seemed to be a negative thing. It's actually, in the context of politics, elitism is a negative thing, to be honest with you. In the context of politics, when you are an elite, it means you are not part of that masses that at the bottom of the economic ladder. You're an elite, you are also at the top. If you put all of us on this show, you put us in the category of elites, yes, we have to accept that. We have some sort of opportunity, some sort of privilege, because we do live in the United States, right? So when we go back to Liberia to participate in the political process, we have to be careful with the words that we use, the things we say, because it may seem condescending to that person who is just a market woman or somebody who is just a pimping rider. So you have to be sensitive to stuff like that. If you're not sensitive to it, if you are bold enough to come on this show and call and say because we said words like elite, and it's an affront to the development of Liberia, then you actually don't understand the politics of Liberia. Liberia political system, there's no way you can take on to leadership to move that country forward unless you get into the system. You can't break it down. There's no way. So the Cummings supporters have to get that straight. They have to understand that. And unless they understand it, they're going to continue to be on these shows calling and diminishing everybody else that exists in Liberia and think that this is the best thing that ever happened to Liberia. The other thing that I also want to talk about is that the intellectual class in Liberia is a small group of people. It's not big. It's a small class. And so the masses at the bottom don't have the time for the intellectual conversation with this matter. That it's a small class. So unless we develop that class and make it bigger by investing in education, we have to continue to have a way to connect these people to the way the country develops so they can understand it. Most of the time, we don't seem to do it because we tie most of our politics around religion. But I'm really grateful of the conversation. I'm really grateful to be part of this conversation. And as always, I look forward to the future ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kula?
I'm glad, Morris, you touched on that elite statement and that Mr. Dorpu, you touched on the Nukutown statement. The fella that made that statement is John Mallow, ANC guy. I think, from what I understand, he's one of the advisors to Cummings. What I keep seeing over and over.
Where you keep hearing this thing from, Mr.
I know, right?
No. I was told. I was told.
Like I can hear all of this.
No, I was told he's Mr. ANC. He's one of the close, advisors to Cummings or whatever. But anyway, the point I was trying to make here is this: these guys are not in touch with our people the way we are and CDC are in touch with our people. What do I mean by that? Where goes, he builds a little park, he pays WIAC fees, and these are the things that people like Eugene Fagone and your man Chubby Charlie enumerated in Washington, D.C. as some of the progress and the development that WIA has done. And I'm looking at these guys like, I can't believe this. This is so mediocre, so narrow. It's so, I don't know. But the point, childish. That's the word. But what they understand is that they have a large youthful population. And if they do these little things like build a park where all these people can bring their kids to the park and play, and the market women that used to do the prayer have a prayer place and build this little wave thing they call a pool, which is really not a pool. The little kids that never had a pool before can say, yeah, I'm going to say I got a pool. And that registers with their parents. And so when their parents go to vote, they will vote for them and say, oh, the man bringing development. The man bringing development. One park got development. These small little community roads are development, but to them that's development because they haven't been expanded. Like you said, the educational base of our people, the educational class has not been expanded. It's very small, but the poor class is large. The class of people that are not educated is large. So what do we and others say? We the market women try in power, so the people don't want us there. Koji is now mayor. The people don't want us there. This is how they appeal to the people. We have to find a way as the educated class or the elite, which they say as a bad word, find a way to relate to the people, just like how a George Bush son here in America, who is an elite, can relate to my redneck friends in the South. Poor boys in the trailer park. How come the white man can do it, but we can't do it? And we're explaining to our people to do it, they say a bad thing. Be able to relate to your people no matter how highly educated or how highly intelligent you are. Be able to come down to your people's level. Be able to speak to them. And when you're picking your vice president, pick someone that the people will say, yes, right now, in the situation that we're in, that this is the person that I can see myself voting for, these two people. Y'all find a way to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, we want to expand to Liberia, especially during the elections. To do that, we need $10,000. That's like a chicken change. Please donate. Focus on Liberia, our Cash App and Zelle information on the screen. This Thursday, we're going to have our year-in review for Tough Talking Thursday. I know if you watched Tough Talking Thursday, you enjoyed the show. Please join us. Sorry about that. So we're going to have Tough Talking Thursday year-in review. You don't want to miss that. So please join us. Everyone that have been on Tough Talking Thursday will be there. So you want to be part of the show. Dr. Duke, before I come to you, I want to read something that you... Dr. Duke wrote this. He said, Monday we wear Ellis t-shirt. Tuesday we wear Boakai t-shirt. Wednesday we wear Yombly t-shirt. Thursday we wear Tiawan's t-shirt. Friday we wear Wea's t-shirt. Saturday we wear Yaka's t-shirt. Sunday we go to church. We pray for rice and rights. Next week, new t-shirt, different colors. All we want is rice, some rights, a few tablets, water, teachers, nurses. For now, we take the t-shirts and we pray and we dance. We shout Amanda to all. Dr. Duke,
yeah,
you got the closing. What were you talking about here? You don't come, nobody's wearing my t-shirt. Why?
Because you haven't put your name out yet.
Oh, okay.
As soon as you do that, we get. I think thank you very much. I think this was a very interesting discussion, and I hope that we follow up on these issues as we go to elections, and not only to educate people, but also to sort of lessen the tension, between people. Somehow you can help that. I think about the elite something. When you are a candidate, you are selling yourself as a product, your ideas, and you are not facing just anybody. You are facing customers, potential customers. If you don't speak their language, if they don't know what you're talking about, they will not buy you. So it's that simple. That's you market. You go to the marketplace to sell something. You say, "Well, I don't speak your language." Then you're not really selling anything. Mm-hmm. And I think this discussion is very important because we are here to talk about this because nobody wanted to be vice president in the CPP. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that we put weight on this, but this is the one thing that broke down the CPP because nobody wanted to be number two. Boakai said, "Well, I was vice president for 2 terms. How can I be vice president again?" And Cummings said, "I'm not doing anything else without being vice president." I think at this point, it's going to be very hard to have Boakai, Cummings in any kind of arrangement. So the best thing for them to do, pick the best candidate, co-candidate you can find, build a strong team, go to the campaign as if you are the only one going against Wea and see how well you do. So I think that's the best way to do it. And I don't think that, it's kind of a pipe dream to say, yeah, like they can go together, but you can work on the same objective. With maturity, you can work on the same objective without being on the same boat.
And wouldn't all this be easier if we have primary, that people will run against each other and then the cream rises to the top? But
well, CPP was supposed to be a primary. CPP was supposed to be a primary, but except that unlike in the Democratic Party or Republican Party, where you have people with the same ideas contesting for one post, these people they don't have the same ideologies, they don't belong to the same class of people, they don't talk to the same group of people. So it couldn't have a CPP organized primary without the chaos.
Yeah. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen. Really, really appreciate your time. Most of you came on a very short notice, but that's what we do here. It's a 24/7 news cycle. So thank you for being ready so quickly. I really appreciate your time. Want to also thank our viewers, those watching now, and even those who will watch later. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we're going to play a song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether you support the Cummins belated ticket, Boakai, Youngly ticket, whatever you support, we are all Liberians. What we all need to do is to do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. I love this country, and I'm sure you do. And that's why we are here 24/7 giving you the best. We are all Liberians. Good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians.